Good evening. Welcome to a healthy conversation. Now, I am in a seat that's not normally occupied by me. I think we switched seats, but tonight our guest is the normal host, Nurse Pat. But she had a conversation she wanted to have with the people, and so she wanted to be the guest and have the conversation. And I am going to be the one that's going to interview her this evening. Nurse Pat, how are you today?
I'm fine. How are you this evening?
I'm doing good. I can't complain. Now, this subject we're talking about is CPR. Now, we hear about it a lot. People say to be certified in it. So we're going to get into the nuts and bolts and the depth of CPR, what it is, why we need it, and how we go about getting trained about it. But first of all, tell us what the letters stand for, because everybody says CPR, but a lot of us probably don't know what the letters stand for. Can you tell us what the letters stand for?
CPR stands for cardiopulmonary resuscitation. That is when the heart stops, you resuscitate. Basically, you start it up again.
Okay. Now, how do you go about being trained, or what is the purpose of CPR? Let's before we talk to training. I know you said it's to resuscitate the heart, but when is CPR necessary, and how do you know when to properly use CPR?
CPR is necessary anytime the heart stops beating on its own. So the purpose of CPR is to restart the heart. A lot of people think you bring it back from the dead, but no, it does not bring you back from the dead, but it will restart your heart if it stops.
Okay. Now, in observance, for instance, let's look. Somebody falls out, and how do you go about determining? Okay, they're going to need CPR, and then once you determine their CPR, how do you administer that CPR?
First thing you have to do is check for a pulse rate. If they do not have a pulse and it is not breathing, that is when you start CPR. CPR starts with chest compressions. You have to do it on a bare chest. You cannot do CPR through the clothes because you have to be able to visually see the chest rise again. So you start with chest compressions, you compress the chest, and then you would breathe for them if they're not breathing, and then you would watch for that, and you would continue. Now, once you started, you would continue CPR until either the person comes around or help arrives. And
Okay.
when I say help, I mean the EMS comes and they take over. The paramedics take
Okay.
over.
Now, you mentioned something that a lot of people probably don't know, and we're going to get into the training, but you say once you start it, you can't stop it.
You should not stop it once you start it because some people take longer than others to resuscitate. So that is why once you start, you've called 911. If you're alone, you call 911 and start right away in a matter of seconds. It's not like, you do this and that, but in a matter of seconds, you start after you've called 911. And I think in Fort Wayne, the response time is anywhere 3 to 5 minutes. You have either the fireman there, a police officer there, or the ambulance there, and they will take over when the lay person has started CPR.
Okay. Now, I'm a lay person, and I don't know, and I see people falling out, and I've seen somebody fall out, and I've seen somebody do CPR, and I found it a necessary tool. How do I go about being trained or getting knowledge of what CPR is?
There are several ways to do that. The American Heart Association have trained CPR instructors. I am a certified CPR instructor. There are a lot of them in the community. If you wanted to learn, the Red Cross teaches CPR. Lutheran Hospital have a setup where you can do it there. You can go online and find it. Now, there are some things you can go online and find where you can take the video, watch the video online.
Yeah.
But you cannot necessarily be certified online because someone have to watch you practice. So if you do the video and you do that part, you still have to be go and be certified because you have to do it then with the mannequins, the actual chest compression, the actual breathing, showing that what you learned from watching the video to put it in practice.
Oh, you mean I can't become a scholar off of YouTube University and just watch it on YouTube and do it?
I don't think so.
Well, you can learn anything from YouTube
Well, that's
nowadays.
true. And it's good to go on there and look and see how to do it, but you can't be certified that way. That's like saying, the doctor watch YouTube and then go do surgery. It doesn't work like that.
Oh, I can't be a brain surgeon watching YouTube?
No,
Come on now.
no, it doesn't work like that.
Oh, come on now. Now, you say the certification. Is the certification a long certification? And what do I need to be certified? What's the length of being certified, and what do I need? What lessons or training, or what do I need to be certified?
Once you're certified and you get your card, your certification lasts for 2 years. In order to be certified, you have to go through a trained, certified CPR instructor. That instructor then has a video. You would watch the video. The video takes you step by step. What you do when you first come upon a person that is non-responsive. Then the video, you will go from that step to when to start compressions, when to do the breaths, and that thing. Now, some people shy away from being certified because they say they can't afford it. You don't necessarily have to be certified to learn how to do CPR, because there are things that's called hands-on, where you just learn how to do the compressions. With that, there's a proper way to do it. It's just not something you just automatically, once you see someone, that you would, know what to do. Now, once you're certified, you cannot be sued for doing CPR on a person, because it's called the Good Samaritan Act.
Right.
So if I came up on an individual, maybe they didn't want to be resuscitated, and so once I bring them around, they want to sue. They cannot sue you for doing CPR on them because you had no way of knowing that they did not want to be resuscitated. Again, you can crack a rib on someone when you're doing compression. They can't come back and sue you for cracking their ribs because you have resuscitated them and aided them to be alive, continue to be alive.
All right. Now, you say your certification lasts for 2 years, and you have to be certified every 2 years. So my question is there a class? How long is the class session? How long is the lesson session? How long does it take me to go through the process of being certified?
It can all be done in 2. If you've been certified, your recertification only takes you a couple of hours, but you can be certified, and it depends on the class. And when I say the class, some people have more questions than others. But anyway, it's from 4. The longest I'd say would be 5 hours to be certified.
Oh,
yes.
that's cool.
That's the long. Yes. And once you do that, now, if you are in the professional field, there's a test, a written test. But if it's a lay person taking it, your practice is your test.
Okay.
The trainer is watching you do your compressions. The trainer is watching you do your breaths. The trainer is watching you step by step when you're doing your training. So it takes, like I said again, some people have more questions than others, but 4 to 5 hours you would be certified. And again, that certification lasts for 2 years. And even though you still know, but stuff changes.
Right.
Things are updated. So that's why your certification is for 2 years.
Yes. And I was going to mention or ask you about that, because I remember when I first got certified for a profession, and there's another question behind this, but I'm going to ask this one first, that there were different techniques in the breath and the pumps and the different things. How often do the procedure change? Because I remember it was like, every 5 seconds there's a breath and then there's 10 pumps or something like that. But now it's a little bit different.
It just, they found out in research that it takes, so it's 30 compressions and 2 breaths. When I was first certified to be an instructor, you did the breaths first.
Mm-hmm.
But they found out that it was better to do the compression first. So now if you came upon a person, you would do the compression. First, you have to find out if they need it. You want to make sure they're just not laying there asleep.
All right.
So you want to shake the person. Are you okay? Are you okay? If you do not get a response, you're going to call 911. If it's someone, a family member that you know, you're going to say, my wife, my child, my family member is non-responsive. I know CPR. You're going to tell them where you are and where they need to be. So when you call 911, that's important because a lot of people panic, and that's just human nature. You got to be able to tell them who you are.
Right.
Where you are and what the emergency is.
Yes.
And then, so once you've done that, you never hang up once you call 911. And now everybody has a cell phone. It's not like before the phone was on the wall. You got to go in the kitchen
Right.
and do the dialing and run back. But now you can put that phone right down there on the floor with you. Now, that's another thing. You cannot do CPR on an adult other than on the floor.
Okay.
Because the mattress is going to give, and if you're on the bed, so you got to make them on a firm, flat surface. So you want to start with the compression. Again, you're going to bare the chest.
Right.
You're going to start with 30 compressions, and you're going to do 2 breaths. And you're going to continue 30 compressions, 2 breaths, until that person responds to you or until advanced care arrives.
Okay.
Now, there's another step to that. We don't have them in our homes, but they are in facilities. They're in a lot of the churches. They're in the malls, which is an AED. That is what you use to electroshock the heart. And that is a part of the CPR training.
Okay.
It's CPR AED training. And you learn how to use the AED to aid you in bringing that person around until additional help arrives.
All right. Now, how you were talking about people thinking about the expense or anything, but what about and let me back up because I thought of the question you say if certain professions, what professions, are there professions that require people to need a CPR certification?
Yes. If you work in a school system, you need to know CPR. If you have a daycare, you need to know CPR. Nurses, doctors, they have certain levels of CPR that they need to know. So mostly anything that you deal with people outside of your household, you need to know CPR. You must be certified in CPR. And daycares is CPR first aid. Schools are CPR first aid. And that's because kids are more likely to fall, break a bone, scrape a knee. So you got to know what to do within the first aid realm to take care of that as well.
Right. And my next question was, you were talking about the expense and people think that it may be a costly thing. And you already said it only takes a couple of hours, so it's not a timely thing. But there are some people that, when am I ever going to use CPR? Why do I have to sit there? Why do I take it? What's the chances of me really having to use CPR?
You'd be surprised in your household, especially now around the holiday season. You have all these people and they're family members, but all these people, they get together and it happens. It's just something that happened. In the summertime, you have kids that are out running and playing and stuff. Now, kids don't normally have heart attacks unless they're born with defected, but it happens.
Right.
But there are so many other things that can cause the heart to stop beating in a child. They can be choking, and choking cuts off the airway. If the airway is cut off, eventually the heart is going to stop beating.
Okay. Now, have you personally ever had to administer CPR?
I have, in several occasions, being a nurse, and I have had to do it with a family member many years ago.
Okay. Okay. Now, one of the things is training, and one thing you can't train about is your cognitive abilities doing it. How do you maintain your thought process, or what would you tell somebody? How would you tell them to think through CPR and not panic or overthink it?
One of the things that we start our class by telling you, you're not going to save everybody. It's just not feasible. If it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be that they are saved. But if you know you did what you learned to do, and each person, individual, well, for me, I can do it, but after it's over, I have to decompress. So you have to know what your area you need to decompress
Right.
once you've done it. So yeah, but once you've learned the steps and you've learned it properly, you're going to do it. It's just going to come to you. Now after it, it may be where you'll have to decompress.
Right. Because I know some people under pressure, they may know something, but things go out the window. Your thought process, So I was just wondering, do you teach a calmness first? Do you teach how to approach things, how to look at things calmly, and then do CPR? Because you first said make sure they need it to keep me from rushing in just because I know it. How do you tell me to mentally prepare to
because
go through
you're
that?
going to make sure you're going to touch that person and ask them, are you okay? Are you okay? And if you're not getting a response from that person, then you're going to know that they need help.
Okay.
And then you're going to know to start. And once you call 911, and if that's your common right there, because that phone is right there with you. Once you get that dispatcher on the phone, they're going to talk to you while you're doing it. That's why you never hang up the phone.
Okay.
Because they're going to talk to you. They're going to tell you step by step. They're going to tell you, okay, the ambulance is around the corner. You can hear the sirens now. And so but they're going to be right there. Once they come in, they're going to tell you, okay, your job is done with that part. And just tell them what happened that led you to start CPR.
All right. Now, you did mention or allude to it earlier that there's two types of CPR. There's an adult and there's a child. What is the difference? And what is adult CPR and what is child CPR?
There is actually three. There's
Okay.
adult, there's a child, and there's infant.
Okay.
The adult, they say anybody over the age of 10, you do this and that. And so that's all in the video of training. Now, an infant is a baby up to age 1 is considered an infant. With an adult, when they say adult CPR, they say puberty and above.
Okay.
And so, and if you're not sure, you go ahead and do. Now, the only difference in adult and child is sometimes the size of the child. Because with a child, you can use one hand to do chest compressions, or two if you're comfortable doing it, and not comfortable with one hand, you do with two hands. But with a child, everybody is going to be 30 compressions and 2 breaths, even a baby. But it's just the hand, the way you do it so that you can not injure them in that way.
Okay. Now, this is a question, and I heard this one time in the CPR class. It was a question for somebody that asked. Now, is the body mass or size a factor into how you administer CPR?
Not so much, because you're still going to do it the same way. You're still going to judge. You got to get those compressions in, and that's what the training is all about. how to, yeah, because not all of us are the same size.
Correct.
So you got to, that's why you're trained to get those compressions there, that no matter how big or how small that person is, you're giving them the necessary compressions.
And in our world today, because it's a question of a lot of things, is there a gender specific CPR?
No, there's not.
Okay. I was just because let's be honest, women have, a man giving a woman CPR sometimes wouldn't feel comfortable, and vice versa. So I just was wondering if there's a gender specific to say if you a man and you encounter a woman do CPR, it's X, Y, and Z versus doing it this way.
It's the same regardless. And when I teach it to young people, and I tell them, yes, women they don't look like a man when you
Right.
take their shirt
Right,
off.
right.
But usually in a situation like that, they're not looking at that.
Right.
No,
Correct.
their main goal is to help somebody that needs help. Maybe later they'll think about, well, should I have done this?
Right,
Should I have
right.
done that? But no, not during that time. I don't think anybody is looking, evaluating that body at that time.
Yes. Now, you said children, you teach children or young people. What age can I start learning CPR? And, what's the best age that someone can learn CPR?
I myself, I do, because I do it at my church. But what I do, I break it up in age groups. I do the little kids because as parents, you give your kid the phone. If you want them to be quiet, you hand them your phone and you put them on there to play a game. If you can hand them your phone to play a game, you can hand them your phone and teach them when and how to call 911.
Yes.
So with that age group, I do at my church the 6 to 8-year-olds to teach them, okay, if mom or dad is laying out, or even their sister, and
Right.
they don't know what to do, if you call 911, somebody's going to come that know what to do.
Okay.
And then I do another age group, the 8 to 13-year-olds, the hands-on CPR, because they don't know yet how to do the breath. So we just teach them how to do compressions. All that encompasses calling 911 and then doing the chest compression. And 14 above can be certified in CPR. Now, there are some places that may do it younger, but that's how I do it, because I feel like once they are 14, they're in the 9th grade and they're in high school, they are able to comprehend how to learn how to do CPR and use an AED.
Yeah.
Now, in the training, the AED are trainers. They don't actually give electric shocks. They just teach you how to use an AED on a person.
Well, that's good to know, because I would probably try to plug it up and see if it
No,
works.
you cannot plug it up and shock anybody.
Oh, that's
It's
no
just
fun.
a trainer.
That's no fun.
There's no currency in it at all.
Oh, that's no fun.
No.
No, but seriously, I do understand, because it's just training. But, in post-COVID, a few years ago, we went through this COVID. Now, protocol, is there a safety protocol post-COVID? Or anything changed
There
post-COVID?
are some things that have changed due to COVID. We no longer teach actually breathing into the mannequin like we did prior to COVID. We now train with a mask, and the mask is doing, so you're breathing into the mask, into the mannequin, rather than actual doing mouth to mouth. But you are taught mouth to mouth, because if you're in your house with your family member, 9 times out of 10, you don't have a mask there, so you're going to do mouth to mouth.
Okay. Now, I do see people with key rings and things such as that. They have masks and things. Where would you be able to get one of those masks or something of that nature?
You can get those little things anywhere, actually off Amazon. When I do classes, I give my students one that they can put on their key ring and have with them at all times. Now, there are a lot of other things. If you don't have a mask, you can use any breather material. You can use that person's shirt. If you are so don't want your mouth to touch their mouth, because a shirt is a breathable material. The air is going to go right through that material into that person.
Yeah, and there's a safety concern because I do understand some fields as well, and you got to be cognitive of this before you give CPR. And that is, what if a person is passed out after ingesting a substance? How would you address that?
Now, there are other things that you can do. If there's a drug now that's out there and it's readily available called Narcan, if you know that they have ingested a substance, you can use Narcan. And I understand, I have not used it, but I understand that that will bring them back around too as well. But again, if you don't know, the best thing to do, again, call 911 and start CPR.
Yeah, the only reason I asked, I just went through a training and they say how easily absorbed fentanyl is through the system, and you don't want to give mouth to mouth to anybody that has ingested fentanyl, correct?
And that is true. And I think, I'm not quite sure how long ago it's been, but I do know that they opened a letter or something at the jail, and some of the people that worked there were exposed to whatever that was in that envelope. And yes, that is true, that if it gets on you, you run the risk of being taken whatever they took. That is true.
Yeah. So it was a great conversation. And I believe that everybody should learn CPR because I've myself at a point had to use CPR. I did mine on an infant, and I don't think I've done it on anybody adult, but I remember doing it on an infant, and I've seen it done many other times. But I do believe CPR is one of those skills that everybody should learn and take time to learn, because you never know when you're going to come across something. But if you want to talk to the audience and tell people why, how, and when they should be certified for CPR, because you never know what life you may have to save.
I think that everybody should learn the basics of CPR. You can use it in your home. And people in your churches, I think there should be at least someone in your congregation, more than one, that knows CPR and how to do it, because you never know when that person in your congregation will need CPR. So everybody should learn at least the basics of CPR.
Okay, one more thing before we get out of here. You stated that you're an instructor, a trained instructor. If people wanted to schedule classes or take classes with you or be instructed by you to be certified for CPR, how could they contact you?
They can contact me through my email address. It's nursepew722@gmail.com, which is NURSEPEW722@gmail.com. I'm also a member of Antioch Missionary Baptist Church. If you contact my pastor, Pastor Fred R. Morris, he knows how to get in touch with me. Or you can contact ONV. They have my contact information.
Well, this was a good conversation. How does it feel being on the other side?
Not too bad.
Not too bad.
No, it's better sitting over there questioning the other people, though.
I do understand that. But we do thank you, and we encourage everybody, if you have not, seek out CPR. Find a CPR class. Because like I say, and Nurse Pat mentioned, you're around holidays, you never know what could happen. There's people that's coming in, there's people that's traveling, you have elderly people in your family that's not in the best of health. So it's better to be safe than sorry. So everybody, if you have not, find a certified CPR class to take it, because you never know who life you might save. And as we always say before we leave our people, always protect your mind. Was that cool?
Yeah.
Got it.